This historical background continues to shape the ongoing disputes over territory, sovereignty, and the status of refugees, based on reports from the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. The conflicts escalated significantly following the events of October 7, 2023. The subsequent military operations in Gaza have resulted in a severe humanitarian crisis, with a high number of civilian casualties and widespread destruction of essential infrastructure, including hospitals, schools, and water systems. This situation shows that the conflict is not only political in nature, but only raises serious humanitarian and legal concerns. As explained by Sassoli, International Humanitarian Law is designed to limit the impact of armed conflict, particularly by protecting civilians and restricting how force is used. Its core principles include distinction, proportionality, and precaution. In the context of Gaza, reports from the ICRC, Human Rights Watch, and Amnesty International point to alleged violations of these principles. These include attacks on civilians, damage to medical facilities, and the use of force that may be considered indiscriminate. In addition, the blockade imposed of Gaza raises further legal concerns. Restrictions on humanitarian aid and essential goods may amount to collective punishment or even the use of starvation as a method of warfare. Building on this context, there is a clear academic urgency to systematically examine the forms of violation of international humanitarian law in the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, particularly since the escalation in October 2023. Studies that specifically integrate normative analysis of IHL with the challenges of its enforcement through international judicial mechanism remain limited. Based on these issues, this study seeks to answer the following questions. What forms of violation of international humanitarian law have occurred during the latest escalation of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict? And the second question is, what structural and political challenges do the International Court of Justice and the International Criminal Court face in enforcing international law on this conflict?
International humanitarian law is a body of laws. It's a body of laws aiming at limiting the armed conflict on humanitarian ground. According to Manjaya, an international law expert, humanitarian law consists of two main pillars. The first is the law of the family, which regulates how and what is asked in work, and the second is law of veto, which focuses on protecting, respecting, and non-combat population. And two, the composition and theory of jurisdiction of the International Court of Justice. The International Court of Justice, atau ICJ, is the branch of judicial organ of the Indonesia, subject to the ICJ station and closes on state. And this, according to Mossad, an international expert, the first is controversial, means it only handles disputes between states the court agreed. And next, the position and theory of the International Criminal Court. According to the Rome Station, the International Criminal Court protects an individual exclusive
chapter, the study explains the research method used to examine this studies.
This chapter study explains the research method used to examine the Israel, conflict and consideration situation of international humanitarian law. The study used a qualitative research method because the research is interpretive rather than statistical. It does not rely on numbers or measurement, but instead on legal reasoning, doctrine, interpretation, and close reading of the relevant legal source. The research also applies a normative juridical approach, also known as rigorous legal research, which focus on reviewing legal norms and applying them to the factual situation on the ground. The independent variable is the violation of international humanitarian law, including military escalation, attacks on medical infrastructure, and blockade-related restriction. The different variable is the challenge of international law enforcement, especially the effective of ICC designation, the jurisdictional limit of the ICC, and the influence of political intervention and veto power. In terms of legal materials, the research used primarily sources such as the Geneva Convention, the Gaza Statute, the Rome Statute, and the UN Charter, and relevant UN legislation. It also used secondary and tertiary sources, including legal textbooks, academic journal, official report from OCHA, and WHO, and legal dictionary.
In terms of discussion, so the first one is in Gaza. Israel systematically destroys civilian infrastructure like hospitals, water and energy, and blockade. This violates HHR and the Rome Statute. It's not collateral damage, it's complete desperation. The second, ICT as representation. The ICT can issue rulings but has no policy to enforce them. It's based on the UN Security Council, where the US veto prevent action, so ICT decisions are symbolic, not binding in practice. The last one is ICC's challenge. Israel is not an ICC member, so the